First of all, I'm so grateful to have found you. I was born already knowing how to connect with the universe, to a point that just now in the restroom, I remembered that when I was little, I grew up, I knew I would either be chosen as the captain or I would be chosen first, and it was never a question in my mind. And wanting so much to be up here to get over a problem, while I was in the restroom, I thought if you could do that when you were little, there's no reason you can't do it now.
That was a good bridge, wasn't it?
It was a good bridge.
See what a fast manifestation that was?
Yes.
And earlier today, did you hear us talk about going more general? Stepping back into a more general place? So that's what you did. You stepped back into something that felt good, and then you had a new point of attraction.
Yes.
Good.
Yes. So in reflecting back to that and trying to get back to that part of me, so that I remember a distinct moment.
Well, we want to clarify something briefly. You're not getting back to that part of you. You're remembering a time when that part of you was active and you're reactivating it again. You're not going back to anything ever.
So there was a chunk of time of 32 years.
Irrelevant, but all right.
It's what derailed me.
Irrelevant also.
Okay. So I'm coming back on track.
No, you're not,
No.
as long as you're talking about the 32 years of derailment.
Correct.
You're keeping them active and dragging them into the now.
Correct, and that's the part that has so much momentum.
Doesn't need to, though.
How do I stop it?
It's all right, but you keep the momentum alive by remembering it, by retelling it. Someone talked about this earlier, by using it as an excuse for where you are a little bit. Even though you don't want to, it keeps feeling like the relevant excuse. You don't stop it all at once, you stop it a little bit at a time. You just bridge gradually, but the best way is to just start fresh. Start fresh in this moment and in this moment and in this moment. What is so compelling about that derailment? Are you just so mad at yourself that you were derailed? Do you feel like you missed things and wasted time? Because there are a lot of people that have passed through 30 years, and none of the years that they've passed to are as dynamic as what's happening right now. But it doesn't mean that it wasn't of value. If it brings you to a place of strong wanting, it mattered. It was of value. It wasn't a derailment. It was a launching pad. You see what we're getting at? Because your desire is strong right now, strong because of that. That's a good thing, not a bad thing. So could you go with that instead of with that? What happened? You don't have to tell us. We just want you to think about it. What happened that was so emphatic that it makes you want to call it a derailment, and even more important, blame it? Why do you still want to blame it?
I don't think I want to blame it. I want to get away from it.
Because if you could make it okay, in other words, take the monster out of it, and then there's not the feeling that you need to get away from it. And if there's not the feeling that you need to get away from it, then there's not an active vibration about it, and then it just isn't.
I think what it is that I started feeling like whatever I did manifest, or whatever I did, things just came to me, almost like the Midas touch, everything. But someone else took it. It became theirs, and so I think I stopped wanting to have anything come.
But it's such a wonderful thing. We know it doesn't feel that way yet, but that's such a distortion of the way it works, because no one is attracting it for you and no one is taking it away from you. It's only your perception that brings it in, and it's only your perception that keeps it out. That's why we called it a monster, something that you're blaming. But it's that attention to that. It's giving power to something that doesn't deserve the power, that's keeping you from your own power.
So to leave that completely in the past and to go to something new, there's such a fear, because
you can't all of a sudden leave it completely in the past, but you could fill the now up with other things. If you are attracting the new, then it's easier to let go of the old. But if you're dragging the old around with you, then there's no place for the new. You have some choices, and we talked about it earlier. If you are determined that the choice of thought is going to be a good feeling one, and you start out before the bad feeling ones have filled in, then it's easier. Imagine having a colorful palette, and let's call it liquids, and a lot of depth in the colors. And you've got your canvas, and because you're not paying attention to what you're doing, or because you're having a negative moment remembering something negative in the past, you just sort of randomly take a brush and color that's sort of deep in color, and you paint the whole board with it. It's a black or a brown or a deep purple, and then you say, wait a minute, that wasn't what I wanted. But it's hard to cover that up with the other lighter colors. Even though you want something lighter now, you can't quite do it. But tomorrow you could wake up and just not put the deep purple or the black on the board. You don't have to drag that board around and try to lighten it up. You can just start with a new board and put the light on it to begin with. You see what we're getting at? But there's a tendency to believe that because I lived something, that I have to now unlive it, that I have to fix it or detach from it or understand it. And you really don't. You can just start in fresh new thoughts. And if we could convince you, and we want to, but we can't, because there's no assertion. If there were, you'd already have it. Got it? No, it doesn't work like that. But what we would like you to feel is that you can start fresh. You can start fresh. And in time, that will be like a distant memory. It'll be like something that happened to somebody else. It'll be like something that you don't even talk about. And you will know how well it served you, because it lighted a desire within you that's way bigger than any desire that you ever had before. You were sort of a product of someone else's desire for a long time. And out of that experience, you have now found your own desire. And your own desire is, so much more powerful. There's such a much stronger point of attraction when it's your desire, you see. Nobody wants to be pushed around, and nobody wants to be taken advantage of, and nobody wants to be played, and nobody wants to be used up. In other words, these are things that people worry about. But the truth of it is, none of that can happen. It's just an illusion or a misperception that you have. Because sometimes somebody who's sort of loud-mouthed and big gets in your face and tells you things that are so loud that you start to listen. And as you start to listen, then it starts to play out that way. But you don't have to listen just because someone's talking. One time, someone was in the hot seat talking about someone who was very troubling to her. And we began looking for the person. We looked everywhere for the person, and turned out the person was nowhere in the room, and yet so vividly part of the conversation. And that's what law of attraction does with thoughts and experiences. You can reactivate them easily, but you don't have to. And so it's much easier to activate something new than to try to deactivate something, because you can't deactivate it. Nothing can be deactivated, because when you look at it, that thing that you're not going to think about, you're thinking about it. And the more you don't want to think about it, the more you're thinking about that thing that you don't want to think about. And that thing that you don't want to think about takes on a life of its own, and then it feels like it's thinking you. It isn't. It's not thinking you. You're thinking it. But you want to find a fresh place, and that fresh place is after meditation.
So I'm so used to fixing things, and I'm trying. So I have a mantra of never give up, and then listening to you, this was what resonated, was give up, just give up, just give up.
Well, here's the thing.
How do I do that when it doesn't fix itself?
We want to tell you something that is a misperception. Do not give up on your desires for this reason. You can't. Because you put it in the vortex, and you've got source energy all over it. So it's not giving up the desire, it's giving up the resistance that you've been dragging along with the desire. So phrase that a different way. I'm not giving up on what I want. I'm just letting go of the way I was going about it. Or I'm giving up the struggle. I'm giving up the thinking too much about it. Or I'm giving up overthinking it. I'm giving up a timeline. I'm giving up being hard on myself about it. I'm giving up my negative thoughts about it. I'm giving up my negative feelings about it. I'm not giving up on my desire. It's more vivid than ever. Just make those kinds of comments to yourself. Have you heard us talking about segment intending?
Yes.
So segment intending is, you realize that it's a new segment that you're entering into. Like it was a new segment when you came to the stage. It's a new segment when the seminar ends and you are on your way to your car. It's a new segment when you get into your car. So new segments all the time. And each new segment does ask for a different focus on your intentions, because you have different intentions when you're communicating with someone than you do when you're by yourself in your vehicle, for example. So it's really helpful to identify the segment and make some statements to yourself about what you want from the segment. So Esther's been segment intending for a very long time. When she gets into her car, she would intend that she would have a nice drive, and she would intend that it would be comfortable and safe, and she would intend that traffic would be kind to her, and she would intend those kinds of things. And she usually has very nice drives. The traffic and the weather is very good to Esther because she's been asking it to be for a long time, and it just is, because she expects it to be. But recently, as she was contemplating segment intending, we said to her, in the spirit of it, something that we'd been saying for a while: you want to get out ahead of it, you want to get out ahead of it, you want to get out ahead of it. Well, segment intending is, in a sense, getting out ahead of it. It's saying, I'm going to be over there, and when I get over there, I want it to be this way and this way and this way. But in the true spirit of attraction, isn't the preparation for that segment really happening in this segment? If you're really getting out ahead of it, then isn't it affirming good things now that is the best preparation for the next segment? Think about it. So that got Esther's attention, and so she began thinking, putting into the terminology, I feel, because feel, emotion, is the best indication of vibration, and vibration is the point of attraction. So she would say, I feel happy. So she identified maybe how she was feeling or how she wanted to feel, but she was identifying the feeling of happy, identifying it, and then isolating it by just kind of looking around her current now for obvious things of happy. This is a beautiful room, by the way. So beautiful in so many ways. There is a lot in this room that if you focus upon it, you could feel happy about. It's fresh and really clean. The sound carries very well. These baffles are intentional. The lighting is wonderful. It's not hard to find a reason to feel some happiness if you decide to. So I feel happy. I feel sure. I feel eager. I feel ready. I feel open. I feel alive. I feel eager for life. I feel sure-footed. So as she began saying those things, she discovered it was the best ever preparation, because now she's taking that good feeling point of attraction person forward in time, forward in experience. So she began thinking of it like, in this segment of intention, she was establishing a vibrational atmosphere, and then she and her atmosphere were moving forward and attracting from whatever was there what matched the atmosphere that she had accomplished. Not telling that person that they needed to be nice to her. Not nice people were irrelevant to her atmosphere. She had lighted her light board in a way that when she stepped into wherever she was stepping, it had to be good to her, because anything that wasn't good to her wasn't active in her, because she'd taken care of that in advance. You see what we're getting at? Since it's attraction, 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 then anything you can do to prepare your point of attraction is a good thing. Now, in contrast, it's the reason that we wanted to have this conversation with you, because this conversation is so beneficial to so many, especially to you. Think about your opening words about that time that you were describing that wasn't so good to you. That's the opposite of the segment intending. That's remembering the past, using that as the reason to accomplish the feeling, and then stepping forward into life with that point of attraction. You see what we're getting at? And that's why for most people, things don't change very much, because they let what has been happening or what is happening be the reason that they offer a vibration, and then they just take it into the next segment and the next segment and the next segment. So the world and life and people and things and thoughts just keep coming to them according to what they've got going on. But you can change that. You don't have to think about what has been, and you don't have to think about what is. But it is a mastery that requires some practice. But once you get the hang of this a little bit, you had that going on. You had that going on. And we love that you have that memory of having that going on when it was easy for you. You can do that again.